Hello there, and welcome back to the Whole30 Meal Makeover Challenge. I'm your host, Brenda Wilkin. I'm a Whole30 certified coach, and thank you so much for being here. So yesterday we talked about the meal template. We quickly went over the Whole30 rules, and we talked about quick, easy protein sources. So remember the meal template. Our meals for Whole30 are going to be made up of 1 to 2 palm-sized portions of protein. And today we're going to talk about filling the rest of our plate with veggies. So before we do that, I want to just make sure it's clear that there's no such thing as a perfect Whole30. So you may have visions that every meal is going to look like you see in Facebook and Instagram, these beautiful gourmet meals and recipes. I guess what you don't see behind the scenes is all the shopping, prep, cooking, cleanup. And so yeah, it's great, beautiful meals, and please share your meals. I'd love to see your meals on your Whole30. But I guess just don't pressure yourself to make elaborate recipes and things. My whole goal this week is so you have 3 go-to meals by the end of the week that you can use when you're short on time, in some kind of an emergency, you're out of town, you get back, you have some things you can just quickly go to, meals that are 15 to 20 minutes or less to make, and it's easy to stock the ingredients. So that's my goal for you this week, is to end up with some go-to meals that match the meal template, and so to take all the stress out of meal planning and things on your Whole30. And I know some people love leftovers, some people hate leftovers. Some people like, again, elaborate recipes. Some people just want serving of protein, throw some veggies on the plate, and add your healthy fat, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, and they're good. So I think for you to be successful in your Whole30, you need to figure out what works for you. So for this to be sustainable and less stress, the idea is if you like to prep, set aside a couple hours 1 day a week or 2 days a week and prep. Go ahead and prep things in advance, have some things cooked that you just need to heat up. But then if you have time and don't mind cooking, every meal at that time, go for it. So again, it's what works for you, what's easy for you, and what you'll stick with. So make sure they're delicious meals, something that you enjoy eating, and then that fits your lifestyle. I want to make sure I said that. And I said, or I was thinking, even if you don't do a lot of meal planning and prep in advance, I'd recommend that you at least write down the meals you're going to have for the next 3 to 5, 7 days. If you plan a week at a time, if you plan a few days at a time, at least jot down some ideas what you're going to have. And it doesn't have to be too detailed, but kind of just indicate protein option, veggie option, and then a healthy fat, which we're talking about tomorrow. So jot those down for the meals that you need to prepare yourself for those days. So you at least have that to go by. And again, you can think of it meal 1, 2, 3. You don't have to have breakfast food for breakfast. We know that. You can have breakfast food for dinner, or you can have leftovers for breakfast, lunch. It's up to you. Again, it's what works for you. And so, I just encourage you to have some sort of a plan, some ideas, so you're not just winging it every night. But again, you're going to have these 3 go-to meals at the end of the week. I suggest post them somewhere you can see them in your kitchen. And anytime you're tired, don't feel like cooking, don't have much time, you get home late, you're stuck in traffic, go ahead and use one of those go-to meals. So again, yesterday we talked about options for meat, seafood, eggs. Thank you, those of you who have shared your homework. Remember, you get an extra entry into the Whole30 Starter Kit from Thrive Market drawing for each day that you post your homework, and just post it with the video. So like today's video, or you would post today's homework with today's video, and I'll find it in in the group. As long as it's posted in the group, I'll find it, but it's just easier if you post it with the video, not a problem if you don't. So if you have any questions, or I'd love to hear your ideas to share if you've thought of anything that quick, easy meat, seafood, eggs that you can have on hand for your meal. So if you have those, I'd love it if you'd share those too. So today we're going to talk all about veggies. I love veggies, and we'll talk a little bit about fruit and how that fits in. But I have a very short, just a couple slides today, not as long as yesterday, slideshow to share. So again, it's day 2. We're going to revisit the Whole30 meal template and talk about how veggies fit in. So just a quick, why do we need veggies? They're very nutrient dense. They have carbs, so they give us energy for activity. They increase our energy level. They support brain function. And then they are anti-inflammatory partially because they're a rich source of antioxidants and all the other nutrients they contain. And then they also reduce the risk for certain lifestyle-related disorders such as stroke, coronary heart disease, certain types of cancer. So veggies do a lot of great things, and I hope you can find ways that you like to add veggies to your meal. So the key is something that you like to eat. Okay, and so to help you eat your veggies, try not to get in a rut. But if you love eating the same thing every day, that's great, go for it. If you need to mix it up, even if you try to eat the same thing fairly often, still try to mix it up. You get more nutrients if you eat a wide variety. You've probably heard eat the rainbow, so eat various colored veggies, and just try to do a nice mix of all different types. And good way to find out about new veggies, go to a farmer's market. You can ask questions about things that are new to you. You can even ask the farmer how they would prepare it and any recommendations they have. And then I'd like for your Whole30 to commit to trying one new veggie a week. So just try one. I'm going to give you some ideas, ways to prepare them and include them. And they'll be cheaper if they're in season, usually if they're local. And also, they can be fresh. You can buy organic, regular. They don't have to be organic or anything special. We'll talk about a little bit more about that in a minute. But they can be frozen, they can be canned. Just watch for additives in cans, and sometimes there's a lot of salt. So just be aware of that. But again, typically frozen vegetables will be cheaper and more convenient. They don't go bad as fast as fresh. And so whatever fits you, your budget, and your taste. And then fruit. Fruit is optional. It's also, like veggies, packed with nutrients of all sorts. But don't let them crowd out your veggies. So fruit is actually considered optional on the Whole30. So one of the biggest problems people sometimes have with the fruit, it's so much sweeter than the veggies. And so it could trigger your sugar cravings. So one of the things we're trying to break on the Whole30 is your cravings. And one way to do that for sugar is to avoid sweets altogether. And so that's just something to be aware of. That's why we suggest you eat fruit with a meal. Or if it's a snack, eat it with at least one other thing. So if you're going to have an apple, maybe have some almond butter with it. Things like that. And then in general, it's okay to drink juice on the Whole30 as long as there's no additives, no sugar, as long as it's pure 100% juice. Though it's not recommended. It's recommended that you actually eat your fruit so that you feel more satisfied, you stay full longer, and don't get in the habit of just drinking your calories, because it can be a lot of calories even though we don't count those on Whole30. So if you haven't heard, there's a group called the Environmental Working Group, and they publish an annual list, 2 lists. They have other lists too, but the 2 that apply to our veggies today. Their website is msg.org/food news, and they publish a list of the Clean 15. Those are like the least pesticides, things those are fruits and veggies where you don't have to worry so much about splurging on organic. And the general rule is kind of, if it's got a peeling, if you're going to remove the peel, it's less important that it be organic. But then the dirty dozen, those are fruits and veggies that, if you can, splurge for organic, and then just do the best with your budget and what you have available to you. So that's just an interesting resource. And since we have it up, your homework for today will be to add veggies to your go-to proteins from day one. So each of the 3 proteins that you posted from yesterday's homework, you're going to add veggies to it today. So I will show you a quick same video we saw yesterday, except added on. So here's our meal template. And again, we start with 1 to 2 servings, palm size, of protein. And again, we're just estimating, and this depends on your size and activity level, whether you go to low end or high end, but try not to go below the lowest one. Try to have at least 1 palm size serving, again, estimated. And then you're going to fill the rest of your plate with veggies. And that's what we're talking about today. So I have lots of veggies to show you. And so let's get to it. If you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the comments. And so some convenience items that are available at stores. Again, we're talking about quick, easy things in a row. You can buy, these are onions already diced, so you can just throw those in with some ground meat or whatever you're making. That's quick and easy. And Trader Joe's has this mirepoix mix, which celery, onions, and carrots. Sometimes I'll throw this in with eggs, like we talked about yesterday, either the egg muffins or a breakfast casserole. I throw this in, put some kale, and pour the eggs over top, and then bake that. So those are just, again, you need to trade off your budget, compare with how much time you have, and see how those fit in for you. And so those are convenience items. And so I wanted to talk about one of the ways I like to prepare veggies is to just roast them. I turn the oven on to 400, 425, and just somehow chop up the veggies and roast them for anywhere from, like, well, if it's kale chips are great. So again, no commercially prepared chips are available or are allowed on Whole30, but you can make your own, except don't deep fry them. You can, something like kale chips, you just put some olive oil on them, a little bit of salt, spread them out on a baking sheet, and bake those. Those probably are the fastest things. Take 5 to 7 minutes in my oven, and you don't want to go anywhere past that because I burned them, yes. And but they taste really good, and they're that crunchy, salty taste and texture you might be looking for. So that's just something fun, easy, quick. But other veggies will, of course, take longer. I just made some, here's some onions. I cut them up in wedges, tossed them in a little bit of olive oil, add a little bit of salt, bake those. These probably took about 15 to 18 minutes. And then this is some butternut squash. I peeled it, chopped it into cubish sized pieces. These kind of are a variety of sizes, but try to get them the same size. And then I roast these for probably 25 to 30 minutes. And again, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, whatever you like. This is a sweet potato. I slice it and then slice it the other way so it looks like fries, and then chop that up into cubes. So I like to make cubes. I use this all sorts of ways. Like we talked about a hash yesterday. You can mix this with some kind of sausage for breakfast. And mix in like onions, bell peppers, things like that. And I also use these on salads. I just mix them in with other foods, or I just eat them plain, put a little bit of ghee, or some coconut butter on them. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. So again, I make those pretty much almost every week. So again, you can roast all kinds of veggies. You can roast with a beet, acorn squash. Again, the beet, I would just dice it. Acorn squash, you typically want to slice it in half. It's hard to peel, which you can peel if you want, but I typically just slice it in half, scoop the seeds out, put a little bit of olive oil, and just a pinch of salt in each one. I roast it in the oven for about, these usually take 35, 40, 45 minutes, depending on the size. Or if you peel it, or even if you don't, you can just cube it and put those in the oven. Let's see, other ways. Let's see. So I get these little peppers sometimes from Trader Joe's. They taste like bell peppers. They're just a little bit different shape. So these I might just, I could slice them in half, remove the seeds, bake them that way with a little bit of olive oil. Again, some kind of olive oil, coconut oil, just to help it roast to get nice and crispy. So again, roasting, and parchment paper. Somehow I came across a huge thing of parchment paper. It's probably been 10 years ago now. I'm still using it, but it's the full bakery, big pan sheet sizes. I tear them in half. They fit my baking trays. And so they make cleanup so much easier. You throw that on the pan, toss your veggies in some kind of olive oil, one of the compliant oils, and then throw that on the pan and just bake it anywhere from, again, kale 5 to 7 minutes, and squash usually takes about the longest at 30, 35, 40 minutes, depending on size again, and whether you dice it up or whether you are baking the entire half. So that's one option for veggies. I want to talk about kind of pasta replacements. So thinking of quick meals, think of all the ways you might use pasta. And of course, that's not allowed on the Whole30. So one option, you can make that same recipe, but substitute. This is half of a spaghetti squash. I actually sliced it in half this way, but sometimes I slice it the other way. But this I made in the Instapot, so it fits better sitting up like this. There were 2 halves, the other one's the same size. Scoop out the seeds. Again, scoop out the seeds. I put this in the Instapot with about a cup of water in the bottom, and then sitting up. And again, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Put a pinch of salt and even some olive oil. These are just plain. And so spaghetti squash, if you haven't seen it before, when they're done, my Instapot, they're on high for 7 minutes. But again, you'll need to play around, see what yours does, and it depends on the size of the squash. Let's see. So let's get this in here where you can see it. So the cool thing about spaghetti squash, you can just pull it apart with a fork. And you can see how it got its name, spaghetti squash. So think of places where or recipes, things you cook now, things that are easy, things that you like, and you can substitute spaghetti squash for any of those recipes. It's a good thing to put. So it could be as simple as sausage and some tomato sauce on top, or whatever you want to do. It's also good plain. It's also pretty much all kinds of squash and sweet potatoes are good with like a little bit of ghee, maybe some cinnamon, ginger, some spices like that. So again, think about replacing pasta in your go-to recipes now if you use it. Spaghetti squash is a great way to do that. So let's move that out of the way. And another sort of substitute for a grain. This is cauliflower rice. I got this at Trader Joe's, but you can find this at almost every store. As always, check the ingredients. This came already riced. You can also buy it frozen, fresh, or you can make your own with a head of cauliflower. You can use a grater, you can use a food processor. So there's all kinds of ways you can make this, but I bought it already made. I wanted to show you some convenience items this week. But a great thing you can do with this is just saute in a pan with a little bit of oil, and then add in some cilantro, a little bit of salt, and like the juice of like half a lime to a whole lime. Mix that up and you have cilantro lime rice. It's great for a side. If you like the bowl concept, you can put some of this in it. And again, I like it a little bit crispy, like sauteed. You could roast it, and then throw in some veggies, some protein, and the rest of your meal. And you can make a bowl out of that. But again, this is, you can use this pretty much. It's, of course, not going to taste exactly like rice, but it's similar in that you could replace current recipes. If everything else is compliant, you can just swap out the rice for cauliflower rice. There's also broccoli, there's other types. So that's that. Let's see. So we talked about, those are some pasta grain replacements. And we talked about roasting. Okay, along with roasting, sheet pan meals. You just take a sheet pan. Again, I like to use just parchment paper for quick cleanup. If you're going to have a couple kind of veggies for your meal, put those on. And then anytime you can put anything from fish, you know, any kind of protein, meat, seafood, eggs. Typically don't put eggs on a sheet pan, but I guess you could. So, let's see. So yeah. So here, if you're using one baking sheet for the whole meal, you kind of have to figure out which one takes the longest. Bake that, or again, roast it. I roast it 400, 425 in my oven. But you kind of have to figure out if you have squash, sweet potatoes, something dense like that, that takes a little bit longer. You might have to bake that for 10, 15 minutes before you add the rest of the veggies and your protein. So it can be, yeah, fish, chicken, beef, anything you have. You could throw it all on one sheet pan, or if it's easier for you with different cooking times, you could throw them on different sheet pans. So again, it's a quick way. If you come home, you have some veggies, protein, you can just throw in the oven while maybe you change your clothes and check the mail and do a few things. Set the oven, so come back 20, 30 minutes later, depending on what you made, and it's all ready. So I like that you don't have to stir it and keep watching it. It's just there. Okay, and then one of the other things I like to do with veggies is, since we can't have like bread, buns, things like that, you can still make sandwiches. I like to make sandwiches with all kinds of different veggies, but one of them, I'll take a sweet potato and slice it typically this way, depending on the size. Slices, and just brush them with some olive oil, or toss them in some kind of olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, any of the compliant oils that are okay at high temperatures. And then slice those. I bake them probably anywhere from probably about 15 to 25 minutes, depending on the size and the thickness. And then I just use those as if they were buns. I make breakfast sandwiches, so put kind of some scrambled eggs and some veggies and avocado on there. And oh, while we're on avocado for Whole30 is considered a healthy fat. It's not really counted as a veggie. So it's kind of both, and it's not a big deal, but a lot of people have a hard time getting the healthy fat into their meal. So avocado counts there. And like if you have a salad dressing with avocado oil, things like that, but that's tomorrow's topic. So again, just coat lightly with olive oil, some kind of oil, and just roast those. Use those as a bun replacement. So I said, okay, I haven't found anything yet that doesn't really go with sweet potato, but eggs are great with sweet potato for a breakfast sandwich. Barbecue, chicken, pork, anything barbecue is good with sweet potato, but pretty much any kind of sandwich you would have. I guess I've never tried them with any kind of burger, hamburger or anything. So another option for buns is, this was an eggplant. Okay, I sliced it like I mentioned. I would slice the sweet potato the same way as I did the eggplant, and then put these on a baking sheet. Again, brush with some type of compliant oil, and these took maybe 15 to 20 minutes in the oven. And again, you can use these for anything, like, again, eggs. Those would probably be good with burgers. I'll try that. So yeah, so think of all the creative ways you can make buns. You can also make small ones, sliders. You can use it as like a slice of toast or a cracker and put things on top of that are compliant. So just think about, I like to think about different vehicles, I call them vehicles, to get to hold other food. And again, they also make great snacks, and the sweet potato especially, but they both freeze well, but the sweet potato really freezes well. Even the diced veggies I showed you earlier, the roasted ones, those also freeze well. And I tend to, the amount that I need for a meal, I tend to freeze it in that size portion so that I just pull it out. If I think of it in the morning, if I know I'm going to have it for dinner, I'll get it out before work and put it in the refrigerator. Otherwise, it's not a big deal to thaw. That's funny, Bryn. Yeah, I love those cute little peppers, and they're so colorful. And yeah, just think about it as meal 1, 2, 3. And again, there's lots of special cases where you need more meals, you need snacks in between, but the general guideline is go for 3 meals and try not to eat in between. Depending on the way you eat now, you may have a hard time the first week or two without snacks. But again, the goal, that's why there's a range in portion size for protein veggies. So keep adding. Don't go below the minimum, like of 1 palm size for your protein, but don't go below the minimum, but you can always add more, and try to make your meals contain enough to keep you full. And especially the protein and the fat we talk about tomorrow is what's really going to keep you full. So some of the veggies will keep you full for a while, some of the starchy ones like potato squash, but in general, increase your fat, protein, play with that until you don't really need snacks between meals. I think other things I use for buns, you can use tomato slices. I've even tried smaller, flatter ones. I'll cut them just in half, and these are good with a burger. They're also good if you hollow them out and put like tacos inside and use this in place of the shell. Love those. And then you can always use lettuce wraps lettuce wraps, the romaine has bigger pieces, cabbage, anything like that, you can wrap things in if you want to pick it up to eat. So again, if you want something quick, convenient, those are some ideas. Lettuce, tomato, portobello mushrooms. I would roast those. But like tomatoes, things, they don't have to be cooked. You can keep it easy. Bell peppers. So you can slice a bell pepper in half, or just kind of slice off a side, and use that either as a slice of bread, a cracker, or for a sandwich. So yeah, that's about all I have for buns with me. But again, get creative. Anything that you can put other food in between is a bun in my book. So I also like other containers. So we talked a little bit about the tomato, hollow it out, put something in it. Tomatoes, you can even bake them with something in it. You've probably seen recipes for stuffed bell peppers. They're another great container. Something else I do with bell peppers sometimes, I might slice it so you have two halves that are the same size, and then I'll put the egg muffins in there. So just like we talked about yesterday, put some other veggies in here. Sausage or any kind of meat is optional. And then I've scrambled eggs and put them in top, but you can just break a whole egg, and then I'll bake that in probably 20, 25 minutes. So again, get creative on how you contain your food, because then I can, they're easy to pick up and take with me to work. Let's see, other containers. So cucumber, I slice it lengthwise in half, and then scoop the seeds out, and fill it with any kind of protein, any of your go-to proteins, or any protein at all. So yeah, and then we'll talk about, I have a demo for you tomorrow using the cucumber. Also zucchini, the yellow squash, again, you can just slice it lengthwise, scoop some of the seeds out, and yeah, you can put, stuff these with any kind of meat, seafood, eggs. You can bake them. You can bake them with stuff in. You can bake them before and put other stuff in, things like that. And what else we have for, I like to call them boats or containers. So again, different ways to make eggs. So I have a quick breakfast. You can use like romaine lettuce kind of as a boat. And eggplant, if I buy smaller ones, I again slice them lengthwise, scoop the seeds out, and fill that with some stuff and bake it. So I tend to use like ground beef, ground chicken, ground turkey, something like that, and brown that first, and that's a quick, easy dinner. Let's see. I think that's it. Also, like chicken lettuce wraps, there's a lot of recipes out there. I can get you one if you need it, but I tend to go to 40aprons.com and nomnompaleo.com. They have tons of recipes. I like that they have pictures, videos, a lot of explanation if you're not sure, especially like if it's a new vegetable you've never cooked before. It's got great suggestions on those two sites. There's a lot of other great ones too. It's just they have a lot of my favorite recipes. And so, again, the idea is for you to find meals that work for you. And whether that's planning ahead for your meal 1, 2, 3, planning 3 to 4 days out, a whole week. The whole goal here is for you to figure out what works for you, whether you like to prep, whether you don't, whether you like to cook each time, whether you have some extra time, you can prepare each meal separately. General advice I give for saving time is to make extra. Neither freeze the extras, especially if you don't like leftovers. Maybe they'll be fresh later, or save them for an emergency, or eat them for lunch, lunch the next day. So when I clean up dinner, if there's leftovers, I'll package it so that I can just take it to lunch the next day. And if there's more than that, I'll pack a couple servings, whatever I need. But I don't use a big container for all the leftovers. Typically, I will break it up into sizes that I need. And so, let's see. That's it. Yeah, and don't forget, yeah, there's frozen fruits, veggies. I have some mango here and spinach. Speaking of mango, mango's good. I put it on like kebabs, mango, pineapple, some things like that with squash or something, and grill that. So the grill is another, as long as it's not Labor Day yet, so hopefully we still have some grilling time left. That's another great way to prepare some extras. So again, I like to prepare extras, but it's what works for you that matters. So, any questions? Let's see. Oh, that's funny, Bryn. How your daughter was confused by everything being wrapped in plastic. Aw, that's so sweet. But yeah, I love those cute little peppers. And so, does anybody have any questions? Okay, and your homework for today is to add veggies to your go-to meals we started yesterday. So take the 3 proteins you started with yesterday, add some veggies. Remember, the meal template says to so put your protein on the plate. We talked about that yesterday, 1 to 2 palm sizes. Again, more or less, depending on size, activity, and whether you get hungry between meals. And then fill up the rest of your plate with veggies. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about adding fat. And again, fruit is optional. It's recommended. You don't eat it with every meal, but it's fine. And it's also recommended that you eat it with something else. So eat it with a protein or a fat typically. Veggies are okay also. Make a salad, throw in some strawberries. I keep pears, peaches when they're in season, apples around, just dice those up. For salads, I know we weren't going to talk much about salads today, but that's always another option for something to put your protein on is mixed greens of any kind, and throw some protein and veggies on there and good to go. So, well, thanks for joining me today. It's been great. I love talking about veggies. I love going to farmers markets. Fortunately, I live near a good-sized one. It's every Saturday morning. It's actually year-round. It's indoors in the winter, so kind of spoiled that way. And then, and yeah, I like to try new things. So let's see. Check my notes quick, make sure, yes, we think we covered everything. So if you have any questions, let me know. Again, Whole30, the easiest way to plan your meals is kind of plan a meal 1, 2, 3, jot down what you're going to have in advance. So especially when you go shopping, you know what's there. And so do a little bit of planning. Some people like to do a lot of planning, have the food already prepared, and then just heat it up when they're busy. So again, homework for tonight, add veggies to the start of your go-to proteins from yesterday. So proteins and veggies are now part of your meal. So again, visualize the amount of like the plate of veggies and serving of protein. Obviously, if you have chili or something, it's not going to match, the meal template plate, but just try to estimate your portions. And if you have any questions, let me know, and post your homework in under this video is a great place. I'll find it if it's in the group, but it's easiest if you put it there. And remember, each time you post the homework, that's an extra chance to win the Thrive Market. It's a little over $50 worth of Thrive Market products, and they're all Whole30 certified. And there's some of the convenience items, mayo, some dressings, some sauces, just some things to make your Whole30 quick and easy. And again, the goal, take the stress out of this. So I appreciate you joining me, and tomorrow we're going to talk about healthy fats. Have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.